Android devices, they have their own version called AR Core. And then some of the platforms like Google Glass, InReal Glasses, Magic Leap is another one, View 6 Blade, and then rumored is Apple's AR glasses that would hopefully come out or be announced this year. The InReal glasses, we actually have a couple pairs of those. Those are pretty cool. So we're working with a startup from Chicago developing a basketball game. And the whole point of it is to get players out and to the courts and to play games with each other, especially during this. We started developing this mid-pandemic. I think we hear feedback.
After this,
anyways,
sorry about that.
So
that person.
Thank you. So what we're developing is it's an app that plugs into these glasses. They kind of look a little similar to this. They tether to your phone, and the whole point of it is to go to a court, play an actual game with anyone in the world. So you launch the app. You have a login system. You can queue for matchmaking, which will pair you against someone of your skill level. And the goal is to play a game of free throw shooting or horse around the world with somebody. And what we do is we have the cameras on the glasses will actually watch you play. And then when you shoot the ball, we have a machine learning model that actually detects if you make the ball or not. So you queue for a match, you go to the court, we have VoIP, so you have voice over IP, so you can actually have a conversation with your opponent. And then when the game starts, you can see where your opponent is. We have a mini map displayed on your phone. It also checks to make sure you're standing where you should be when you shoot. And then, of course, when you shoot, it'll detect if that shot was made or not. So that's something that's currently in development, and very much looking forward to releasing that. Let's see, yeah, so we have a quick example of our AR app. So basically, what we did is we developed an app specifically for inspecting heavy machinery or equipment, primarily focused towards marinas. So travel lifts, forklifts, work vehicles, boats, that sort of thing. And so we developed these targets. There's 20 of them. This is a few of them. And then we have a back-end system. So when you scan these targets, you can set up the equipment, right? So if I scan the gloves on the left, it'll know this is forklift, model X, serial number this is how many hours it has, the last inspection that it had, and then any failed inspections, the history, right? So this is your initial home view when you log in. So you have perform inspection, you can view your equipment, view your logs, and then manage account. If you click on view equipment, you can see your existing equipment, what it is, edit it, delete it, etc. If you click perform inspection, that's when it'll initialize your camera and it'll begin to look for these tags right here. And then again, once found, it'll pull all that data associated with that. So pretty cool app here. We also recently embedded email alerts. So if an inspection has failed and someone needs to order a part number, email is sent to that appropriate contact for that. And lastly, this one is probably the most controversial topic, at least for me and a few others in the area. What about mixed reality? This is what I have to say about it. Mixed reality is basically augmented reality. Microsoft coined the term mixed reality, I think in 2016, I believe it was. And it was initially created for their platform. They wanted to have it as a mixed reality platform. And since then, the definition has kind of evolved. So augmented reality is where you render digital objects over reality. And then mixed reality, the definition is you do that, but you can also manipulate the objects, right? So you can use your hands to pinch, like you do on HoloLens, you can manipulate. Well, AR is constantly evolving, it's constantly improving. You can do all those things now on AR. You can even do them with just your iPhone. There's examples where you can spawn an object and use your hands to manipulate the object on an iPhone. And there's also a reason why Magic Leap, which is a very similar headset in a way, they consider their headset an AR headset. So that's just how I feel about mixed reality. I consider it basically AR. But yeah, that's pretty. I know that was pretty quick for me, but that's all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email's right there, tim@vartechnologies.net, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tim. That was great. I apologize. I had to disconnect for a short bit. I had a Dominion power glitch over at this end and just knocked everything off. So what'll probably happen, let me look, it's I'll probably have two separate recordings. Joe and the first part of your remarks, and then the second part of your remarks. So that'll be fine. Gentlemen, would you be willing to share your slides?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, just email them over to me, and when I send out the link to the videos, I'll include the slide decks. So, you know, it's just exciting stuff. And if anybody's got some questions in chat, or you can just turn your mic back on and come back in. But you know, Tim, you mentioned briefly holograms, and we know that things like holographic TV, well, they really already exist with the assistance of glasses, certain technology. I think, unless you correct me. What do you think?
No, they certainly exist. There's I've seen the holographic TVs. I've seen the signs that are holographic with the spinning LEDs, the illusions. And I mean, you have people watching TV in VR. You know, I consider a lot of those see people really jumping on board with something like that for a home television. We're just not there yet. It doesn't look as good. It is a cool way to advertise something at a show, for example. Like if you go to any sort of tech show, you'll see like a company animated sign or logo with a little spinning LED. It looks like a hologram, basically.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, my flat panel, which is about 10 years old, is starting to break down. So I guess I'm not quite ready to go holographic TV. There's a couple questions in chat. You guys want to take them? Can you see them?
Sure.
Go for it. Both of you.
Okay. So first one, what are the use cases of VR, AR in hospitals and medical facilities? I can certainly touch on the VR side of that. There's a lot of content being developed now for performing medical procedures. I saw one a couple weeks ago. Someone had developed knee replacement surgery using, I believe it was the HTC Vive. They actually had tools that were tracked in VR, which is another cool thing about the desktop VR is you can actually have tracking physical props. I think I forgot to touch on that. So if you want to track, you know, a tool or a fire extinguisher or some sort of equipment, you can replicate that and it would mirror what you see in the virtual world. Joe, do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, so we've seen use cases. The same problem statements exist in the medical spaces. One of the biggest limitations has been security. Having something, you know, pointing a camera at a environment, having HIPAA issues is something that we've realized. So one of the unique things with our video communication application and also our security is that we're using third-party solutions that are HIPAA compliant. So this is an area that is still new and we're trying to get into, but essentially they have the same problem statements, the complex work environments, high turnover, and issues with training. So being able to walk up to a room, connect to any type of instructions or guidance or information to that hospital environment, we see benefits through our platform. And the nice thing about our platform is anybody can download it and try it and do it themselves. So it's more of a self-service and traditional SaaS platform. So they can develop the content themselves without having us in the loop to drive the content.
Since I got a second question, any limitations to the types of trainings you can develop in VR, and then how long does it take to develop something like the ladder safety training? As far as limitations go, if you're talking about like content limitations, I mean, that depends on the content and the goals and requirements. Other than that, really the only limitation that I would think of would be a budget constraint, because with VR, you can go so crazy with it, right? So you can do a desktop VR experience where everything looks super photorealistic. You can have a room, like say a 40 by 40 room, and have physical props. So you could have an actual chair be in there or a door, and when you push open the door, it actually opens in VR. So it really comes down to what are your requirements, and then, you know, what are you trying to achieve? And then as far as the ladder safety training, the one that I demonstrated was kind of like an introduction to portable ladder safety. That one took about 2 months to develop.
Very good. More questions out there? And Joe McMahon, you raised your hand. Either mic in with your question or type in, whatever you choose.
Hey, Dan, this is Joe. Hopefully you can hear me, but I've met with Joe Weaver, and this is really a fascinating area. So I am personally working on an issue where we're looking at using this type of technology. It's called enhanced situational awareness using augmented reality, and it really includes all of it. But we're actually using it so that on board the aircraft carriers, the flight decks, and we have different types of aircraft carriers, but to minimize the accidents that we have with just bumping our aircraft together. We park them sometimes inches apart. And so using this for situational awareness, you know, is really one of the key opportunities. So having spoken with Joe, Tim, I really like your presentation. There's some other areas that we've crossed into, and you hit upon several of them. So look forward to talking with you.
Thank you.
Very good. Ella's got a question.
We have a question.
Yep.
Yes, Ella's question, are you seeing an increase in VR events in a corporate setting? And then what do you think are the barriers of entry? So your first question, as far as an increase in VR events in a corporate setting, that's kind of flatlined during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we did a couple apps that were client summit apps, right? So you could attend virtually through VR, and then inside that experience, we embedded examples of other VR apps that we made. It was pretty cool. So you're basically in this giant meeting room, you're seeing everyone else, and then you're also seeing some of the e-learnings and VR content that we also created in that experience. And then the second part of that question, barriers of entry, it used to be cost, because, you know, back when VR first came to light, you had to have a desktop. It was really powerful. Then you had to buy the VR stuff too on top of that. So it's very expensive. So that entry or that barrier is gone. I would say the other barrier is going to be depending on which VR headset you want to go with. And what I mean by that is, so Oculus, for an example, you have to buy enterprise units, right? And the only way you can get a hold of those is they currently have it set to where the client, the end user, has to go through them to purchase the headsets, not the developer or the ISV. So then if you come to me and say, I want this experience, I create it for you, I'd say, that's great. And I'll go to Oculus and buy some headsets. We want to provide people with a turnkey solution where they don't have to go reach out to some other third party and then purchase the headsets, and then they have to maintain them. They recently relaxed their decision on third-party management to where you can now create an external account for someone else to manage the headsets, which is nice. And then really quickly, there's a new brand, not new, but it's getting more popular. It's called Pico Interactive. So basically in China, they banned the Oculus Quest headsets. So Pico Interactive created basically a copy of that, and now they're selling them in the US. And there's no rules, no restrictions. They're all enterprise units. Buy the headset, it's yours. You can sell it, you can lease it, whatever you want to do. So as far as barriers of entry, there were some that exist. I think they're slowly coming down.
Why was Oculus banned in China?
I don't know. It's probably something to do with Facebook. Everyone that I speak with is well. So the commercial version of Oculus obviously requires a Facebook login, which I think is absurd. Fortunately, the enterprise system doesn't require that. But I just China bans things. Like they banned the Oculus Quest headset. I think they banned what, Tesla's, if I remember correctly. So I don't know the reasoning behind it, but they tend to do that to some of these high-tech devices.
Interesting. I know that Rick has a question, but Ella had a quick follow-up to her question, which you can see there. Why do you think it has flatlined during the pandemic in this virtual world? Would you not expect an increase? Very curious about that.
Yeah, so there are VR companies that have platforms that already exist for virtual VR meetings. Those did go up. What I was referring to is more corporate-based VR experiences. So the client summits, internal corporate training type things, and that's because they didn't have the headsets, and then headsets are incredibly hard to get during the pandemic. The consumer grade, however, that took off, right? Everyone was getting VR headsets. They're doing virtual concerts, Beat Saber, you name it. So it was the enterprise really that it really flatlined during the pandemic.
That makes sense. And can you,
No problem.
one of you take Rick's question?
Yeah, so I can speak to digital
Rick.
twins.
Yes.
So essentially, we're doing that right now. So a lot of our clients have CAD or 3D content. So our web portal acts as a content manager. So you can upload those 3D models, and then you can distribute it through the mobile phones and tablets to the actual work environment and place it contextually at the piece of equipment. And those models can be animated using tools like Adobe Aero. We're excited to see that solution because we started working with enterprises to kind of kill the manual. So a lot of product companies still use paper or deliver paper with their products. We started working with companies to help digitize their work instructions, build 3D models of their components, animated instructions on how to operate it or assemble it or configure it or even potentially sell it, and then deliver that through our platform to the installers or even to the end customers. So we think that's a big area for our growth, is building those digital twins of those assets and using our platform to allow the enterprises or companies to build those manuals or content and distribute it all to their customer base.
Very interesting. Any other questions out there? We're in a little bit of overtime now, about 1:02. Last call for any questions. You can mic in if you want for expediency. All right, some people.
Yeah, I think this is Manisha. I wanted to know more about that TV game, VR game. What was the kind of audience you got? You said it really worked during the pandemic, but the headsets and how did it really work? Was it over a few different platforms or it was just VR based? How was it?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So that launched probably about March, April. So it is right as everything started to kind of collapse, if you will. So luckily the producer was actually able to get that 360 stereoscopic rendering right before everything shut down. And then of course, Hollywood has these special, they can get through certain rules. But so he recorded that, and then that was released for the Oculus Rift and the Rift S. And the whole point of that was he's taking that to the producers, the higher end producers of the show, to then turn around and develop more of the Let's Make a Deal games, but also other games too, like Wheel of Fortune, and I forgot the other one. So that one's still in development. The thing now is Hollywood's kind of basically opened back its doors. They're in full production mode. So it's kind of sitting on the back burner, but the long-term plan is to develop that and release it for the Quest 2, eventually Quest 3, and then incorporate all the other games as well.
Very good. Absolutely. Last call for questions. All right, that seems to do it. A lot of very positive comments, which I agree with. This is just been a fascinating topic, and you know, we've known that it's part of the future for a long time now, and it's good to know it's part of the present as well as the future. It'll continue to evolve. I want to personally thank you both for doing what you're doing in these exciting industries and from within Hampton Roads. Greatly appreciated. You guys are wonderful examples of technology entrepreneurship, and you should both be very proud. With that, I think we'll call the conclusion of the program. I'm not sure how the videos are going to turn out, people. I've got, if everything went good, I've got 2 video links. So we'll see how that plays, and we'll get the slides from Tim and Joe, and we'll watch for my email later on today, if everything goes well. So once again, my thank you to both Joe and Tim. Appreciate it. Thank you to Cox Communications for their ongoing support and series sponsorship. And I'm waiting for that 100 gigs so that I can effectively use the technologies that these gentlemen are talking about. So anyway, thank you all. Have a wonderful day. And if you have any follow-up for any of the gentlemen, if you don't have their contact information, you probably will in the slides. If not, send me a note and I'll forward it over. With that, have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Okay, thank you.